Hi friends! I am back at my local Volvo garage full service today, because today will hopefully be the day that I can go and reinstall this engine into my Volvo V70. Now my friend Pascal is here to help me again today, and hopefully we can go and reinstall this engine at the end of the day. For those of you that are new to the channel, a few weeks ago I decided to go and pull the engine from my Volvo V70, because I just felt like rebuilding it. Of course, the first thing I did was completely disassemble this engine and take all of the parts to the machine shop. After that, I got started on the rebuild. And in the past few weeks, I've rebuilt both the cylinder head and the short block. This is what we're at right now. And as you can see, the first thing we gotta do is reinstall the oil sump. And Pascal's already cleaning the surface for me. And then we can go and put it back in place. Before I go and reinstall the oil sump, I got to put the oil pickup back in place. And of course, I'm using a new seal and some grease to make sure that seal doesn't get damaged right away. Now there's two more seals that I put in place, and I'm also using a bit of liquid gasket on them. I always like to twist them around a bit once they're on the engine block to evenly spread the liquid gasket. And now onto the oil sump, where I'm using that same pink orangey liquid gasket. Those of you that have watched my previous video already know the drill. I just like to apply it all over the surface and then spread it evenly using my finger. You could also use a small paint roller for this, but using your finger works fine as well. By the way, you also got these seals, two of them, and they're located right there and right there, and normally you'd replace those two, but I've already done so before starting this project. But yeah, those are new as well. Since Pascal has already cleaned the surface of the short block, I could go and reinstall the oil sump right away. And that's the easy part, because the most annoying task is putting like 100 little bolts back in place. Pascal's using a power tool on a soft setting to carefully but quickly put them in place, and of course I torqued them all to spec after that. Now I'm just going to install this oil filter cover without the actual oil filter in it, because I'm going to install this engine into the car, and then later I'm going to install an oil filter, because then we can go and pre-fill it, because it's a bit hard like this, if you get what I mean. Now onto our first little side quest of today. We're going to get my V70 and then drive it to the car wash. Well, we're going to pull it, because of course it doesn't drive, because there's the engine, you know. And then we're going to clean the engine bay before we go and put the engine in. We've decided to just pull this car to the front of the garage to clean the engine bay right here, because that's a bit easier and it's really cold. So I think we're going to do this a bit quicker than usual, but we're going to clean it, because it would be a shame to not do that and then put a very fresh engine in a dirty engine bay. And after cleaning the engine bay, Pascal drove my V70 diesel on the car lift. To make room in the garage for my V70 2.5T. But before we can go and continue working on the car itself, we got to go and install many more parts on the engine. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but of course I'm replacing all of the seals and gaskets along the way too. By the way, we didn't just clean the engine bay, of course we've cleaned all of the parts that we're going to install too, but look at how shiny that is. Okay, I'm super stupid, because I've just been sitting here shimming this engine and I totally forgot to turn on the camera. But as you can see, we've already put 3 out of 4 shims in place, and the reason we're shimming this engine is to prevent these cylinder walls from cracking, because on these 2.5 liter engines, they can crack, and this one isn't cracked yet. So we're going to shim it to prevent that. But luckily we got one more left to do, so that's what I'm going to do now. And I'm really sorry, but that happens to the best of us, right? The principle of the shimming is very simple. You measure the size of the gap between the cylinder walls and then get a shim in that size, which is basically just a thin metal strip. You then put it in the center of the cylinder walls, and I like to tap it in place diagonally, cause it slides in a bit easier that way. And then you put a little tool you can get with the shims on the shim itself and carefully tap it in place using a light hammer. Keep your eyes on it closely, as you don't want the shim to bend or break, of course. We also got a new pulley. We just put the engine on the floor so we can go and install the gearbox, and then I think we can go and put it in the car. Now before we can go and reinstall the gearbox, we gotta put that plate back in place, and we're going to use some Loctite on the bolts. I started putting the plate in place, and to be honest, I have no clue what this is called, so please let me know in the comments if you do. And while I was doing that, Pascal got the engine hoist. You need any help?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay. Just trying to use this engine hoist to line up the gearbox with the engine, so we don't have to lift it or something ourselves, because it's a bit heavy, of course. Now all we have left to do is install these bolts in the torque converter, and to do that you got to reach through the hole of the starter motor and then turn the engine to reach all of the holes where the bolts should go in, of course, yeah. And when you're tightening the bolts of the torque converter, don't tighten them all right away and slowly tighten each bolt bit for bit, because otherwise the engine will get stuck. Better be too slow and careful than letting that happen. Torque converter's in place too, so now we're gonna go and put this engine in the car. Oh, and by the way, we're going to put this engine in place before installing the cylinder head, because it's way easier to install the cylinder head once the engine's in the car, because it's a bit easier to tighten the cylinder head bolts when the engine doesn't move, because it was already super hard to get them undone. So we're going to do it the easier way now. And with our nice lashing strap construction, because again, I forgot my engine leveler, we are all ready to go and put it in there. Now, in my opinion, installing an engine is always a bit of a struggle. But I do find it so much easier when you got an extra set of hands and eyes. Pascal and I have done this job quite a few times together already, so we kinda already know who's going to do what. Now, this car was a bit harder to do because of all the extra hoses and wires from the LPG system, but of course we eventually got it done. Engine's finally in place, but it is now 11:30, so it's getting a bit late, so I'm gonna call it a day for now, and then I'll get back to you tomorrow to install the cylinder head. Hello, hello, we are back. So today I am going to finish this engine and I'm going to reinstall the cylinder head. Of course, before we can go and put the cylinder head back in place, we gotta clean the surface of both the engine and the cylinder head itself. And Pascal has already begun cleaning. And while Pascal cleaned the cylinder head, I did the same on the upper surface of the short block. I then unpacked the new multi-layer steel head gasket and put it on the freshly cleaned surface, being careful to only place my fingers on the sides and not the sealing surfaces. Because of course we don't want those to get dirty and greasy. And then Pascal and I put the cylinder head in place together, which makes the job a lot easier since that thing is heavy. Pascal then cleaned out the holes for the cylinder head bolts, which we already did before reinstalling the engine into the car, but you know, better safe than sorry. And then we put the bolts in place. Of course we're using new ones since these are stretch bolts. Alright, I've just tightened the cylinder head bolts to 20 and then 60 Newton meters, and for the last step I gotta tighten them 130 degrees more, and to do that I'm going to use this tool. This tool's very easy to use. You just gotta make sure it's set at 0 degrees when you got tension on the bolt with your tool. And then you just turn it to 130 degrees in one go. Alright, cylinder head's all nice and done, so now I want to go and reinstall the valve tappets. But before I do that, I'm gonna go and put some oil in here so that everything's nice and oiled up before it's first start. As you can see, I'm using this super handy little pump to put the oil on top of the valve springs before I put the valve tappets in place. And once I got them all in place, I put some oil on top too. And after putting the valve tappets in place, I wanted to go and reinstall the camshafts. But before doing that, Pascal reinstalled the cover that's behind the timing belt. Just turning the engine until top dead center again, which isn't ideal with the wheel in place, but it's doable. Now I'm gonna go and install the new water pump right there. And I do still gotta clean that surface. And of course we're going to install a new water pump and gasket. Once I got the new water pump installed, Pascal put these little seals in place. And a quick tip, when you're reinstalling the valve cover, make sure these are all still laying flat, cause they do sometimes curl up a bit. After those seals, I went on to put the camshafts in place, trying to put them as close to their timing marks as possible. Then onto the valve cover, which will secure the camshafts. And as you can see, I'm using that pink liquid gasket again. Then it was time to reinstall the camshaft adjusters. But first we have to install the camshaft locking tool on the other side of the camshafts, cause otherwise we can't tighten the bolts of the adjusters. This also sets the timing for the camshafts, which is handy cause I'm going to install the timing belt in a sec too. Of course we're not forgetting the new camshaft seals, and this is where having a Pascal comes in very handy, cause he can just slide the seals into place for 90% using his hands. After that he just used a hammer to tap them in until flush. And now it's time to install the final part for today, the new timing belt. Of course, this timing belt kit comes with a new idler pulley and tensioner that I'm installing as well. And once I got those in place, I could go and put the timing belt on, making sure the camshaft adjusters are turned all the way to the right when doing so. Alright, timing belt's in place, so that's it for the engine itself. Now, of course, we still gotta install all of the parts that are missing in the engine bay, but it's already 12:30, so that's not what we're going to do today. Now I think it's time for me to go home and get some sleep, so I'm gonna go and call it a day. Hopefully next week we can go and rebuild the rest and then finally start this car. For now, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hope to see you next time. Bye!